Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be talking about coroutine context and dispatchers, and we will try to understand what coroutine context and dispatchers are, and we will see how to use them. So let's start with this video. So what are coroutine context? Coroutines always execute in some context, and the value of this context is represented by a type coroutine context which is defined in Kotlin standard library. The coroutine context type is a set of various elements, and the main elements of this context are job and dispatchers. We have talked about jobs in our previous video. If you haven't seen that video yet, you can watch them using the I button or the link in the description. And in this video, we will cover dispatchers. So what are coroutine dispatchers? Coroutine dispatchers are a part of coroutine context which determines which thread or threads corresponding coroutine uses for its execution. A coroutine dispatcher can restrict a coroutine execution to a specific thread or dispatch it to a thread pool or let it run on any thread. Next, we will see the different types of dispatchers available in Kotlin coroutines. So let's go to our IntelliJ editor. Here I'll write a demo code to explain the different types of dispatcher and the difference between them. So I'll start with the main function, okay, inside which I'll create another function. I'll call it dispatcher example, and then I'll create this function. I'll use here run blocking. Here I'll launch a new coroutine. Inside this block I will print the thread name, so I'll simply type println, and inside which I'll use thread function to print the current thread name. Okay, so yeah, this will print the current thread name. I'll add some more text here. I'm using thread. Okay, and then what we can do, we can add a dispatcher here. So if you go inside launch, you can see that it accepts a coroutine context parameter where you can pass any context. So by default it is empty. So next what I'll do, I'll pass a dispatcher here. As I mentioned earlier that coroutine dispatcher is one of the element of coroutine context. So we will be able to pass a dispatcher from here. So I'll call it dispatchers dot default. So this will add a default dispatcher to this coroutine. So similarly I can use different dispatchers. So first what I'll do, I'll simply add a message here. So let me extract this to a function. I'll call it log, and inside this function I'll accept a message. So I'll simply pass which dispatcher I'm using. So I'll give a type to string, and then I'll simply add the dispatcher information here. Okay, so what I'll do next is I'll pass here default. Okay, so we are using a default dispatcher here, so I used default here. Okay, see, in the similar way I'll duplicate this block. So here I'll be using unconfined. So we have a dispatcher called unconfined. Okay, and I'll pass unconfined from here, and then in the similar way I'll duplicate this one as well. Here I'll be using new single thread context. So we have something called new single thread context. So I'll use this one. Okay, and inside here you can give any name to this thread. So I'll call it my custom thread. I'll simply pass this in the log, and then finally I have default launch. So here if you don't pass any dispatcher, by default it will take context from its parent. So here it will use a context of run blocking. So I'll simply call log with message run blocking. So I'll just call it run blocking, and let's run this example and see what we get as output. So I'll simply run this example. Okay, so here you can see we got the output. Let me add a padding here so that we'll able to see the message clearly. So I'll simply use a function pad start. So I'll simply use a function called pad start. Okay, here I'll simply pass a number 30. So let me rerun this example. So yeah, now we can see this message clearly. You might get a different order as all of these are running on a different thread. So if you see here, we got for default dispatchers, it is using default dispatcher worker 1, and then for unconfined it is using the main thread, and for custom thread it created its own thread, and then for the default one where we passed run blocking, So here this launch basically it is using the main thread. So here in the run blocking, this launch where we haven't passed any dispatcher, so by default it will be inheriting the parent context, so it is running on the main thread. So here in our code we can say that default dispatcher uses a pool of thread, okay. And then for unconfined, I'll explain this with a different example. So for now, just assume that it is not confined to any specific thread, okay. And then for new single thread context, so here we can say that it creates a new thread every time, okay. So for this, where we are using new single thread context, let me tell you that this method is not recommended to use it in your code. So this is basically a experimental thing. You see this note here, it will be replaced in future, right? So we will get some different API similar to this. So the reason is that every time you will call this method, you will get a new thread. So as we know that creating a new thread is an expensive operation and we have to manage it manually, right? So every time you create a new thread, you need to close this after your task gets completed, right? So that is the reason it is not recommended. Next is this, where this launch is inheriting the parent context. So that is the reason it is using the main thread, right? So we have seen different types of dispatcher. So next I'll explain confined. How does this confined work? Write another example. I'll call it unconfined example. Okay, I'll comment out the previous one. I'll create this function here. Here I'll use the run blocking. So I'll simply use this block. I'll copy it. I'll paste it here. Okay. So let me do a little modification here. I'll remove this comment. What I'll do, I'll simply print the unconfined and its corresponding thread. After this, I'll put a delay. So I'll add a delay of 200 milliseconds, and then again I'll log the thread again. So I'll pass unconfined. Okay, and let's run this example and see what is the thread it is using for its execution. So here in the output you can see that in the first message it is using the main thread, and then after the delay it switches its thread to this default executor. So why is this happening? So for unconfined dispatcher, it starts its execution to its caller thread, which is the main thread, and after any suspending function it resumes on the same thread which this suspending function was using. So here we can say that coroutines using unconfined dispatcher does not restrict to a specific thread. So unconfined dispatcher is appropriate for coroutines which are not consuming CPU time or updating any shared data which are confined to a specific thread. So next we will see how we can manage a thread when we are using new single thread context function. So for that, what I'll do, I'll quickly write another function. I will call it single thread context. I will comment the previous call. I'll create this function. Here I'll be using run blocking. So inside this I'll be using this one. So what I can do is I'll create a job, okay, and then I'll simply call this. I'll remove this comment. So here I'm launching a new coroutine and passing the context new single thread. So what this will do, this will allow me to create a new thread, okay. So I also have to close this thread once my computation is done. So for that, what I'll do, so let's run this example first. So I'll do job.join here and let's run this example. So here we got my custom thread. It is using my custom thread, okay. So what I'll do, I'll quickly move this block inside new single thread context, and here I'll pass the name custom thread, and then I'll use a function called use. So this use is a Kotlin construct which you can use to manage your resources. So what I'll do, I'll simply paste the block previously which we have written, and then inside this we will replace this with context. So I'm here receiving executor coroutine dispatcher. I will call it context, okay. So I'll pass this here. So if you go inside this function, what it does, it basically says that it executes the block function on this resource and then closes it down correctly whether an exception is thrown or not. So it will take care of your resources you are creating here, right? So whenever you need new thread for your coroutine and you are using this context, you should use this use construct so that it can manage your resources, right? So it will automatically close your thread as soon as your this block is completed. So let's run this example. You will get the same result. So here as we pass custom thread, that's why it is giving me custom thread here. So yeah, that is about different dispatches available in Kotlin coroutines. So let's go back to our slides. So next we will see debugging in coroutine. So as we have seen in a demo code that a coroutine can suspend on a thread and resumes on a different thread. Even in a single threaded dispatcher, it will be difficult to figure out what coroutines are doing on which thread. So the very common method to debug an application which is dealing with so many threads is to add thread name in each log file for each statement. While working with coroutine, adding thread name alone will not be of much help. So for that reason, coroutine provides some debugging facilities which make it easier. So let's go back to our IntelliJ editor. So here I'll show you one example where you can use some JVM option to add more information to your logs. So for that I'll write an example code here. So I'll call it debugging example. I'll create this function. I'll use run blocking here. Okay, and inside this I'll simply use async coroutine builder. Here I'll say async, and inside this I'll print a message. I'll call the log function. I'll pass a message. I'll say fetching first number. Okay, in the similar way I'll do for second number. So let's call it number 2 and the first one number 1. Okay, fetch second number. So inside this I'll return a value, let's say 4, and from here let's say 33. Okay, next I'll simply calculate the result. I'll add these two numbers. I'll store it in a result variable. I'll call num1 dot await plus num2 dot await. So here we have used async coroutine builder, about which we have talked in our previous video in much more detail. So if you haven't watched that video yet, you can watch it using the I button or the link in the description. So let's continue with this. Next I'll simply print the result. I'll use the log function for that. I'll pass the message result is okay. So let's run this example. So here in the output you can see that we have got information about the thread on which this function is executing. So we only have information about thread. So here in this method we are launching multiple coroutines, but if you see the output here, we don't have any information about this coroutine. So it becomes very difficult to debug in case of any bug. So what coroutines provide is a JVM option. If you go to run option and then edit configuration, here we have something called VM options where you can put this expression which says -d kotlin x dot coroutines dot debug, and if you save this configuration and if I rerun this example, let's see the output. So here in the output now you can see that along with the thread information we are also getting information about the coroutine. So if you notice inside this method we are having 3 coroutines currently. One created from run blocking, and other 2 coroutines are launched using async coroutine builder. So another thing you can do is you can assign a name to your coroutine by simply using coroutine name. So we have a something called coroutine name, and then inside which you can pass some name. So I'll say task 1, and similarly I'll add here coroutine name and we'll pass a string task 2. Okay, so let's rerun this example and see what is the difference in the output. So here in the output we can see that it is now printing the coroutine name as well. So this makes your code easy to debug. So here if you notice, this coroutine name is nothing but an element of a coroutine context. So yeah, that's about debugging in coroutines. Let's go back to our slides. Next we will be talking about parent-child relationship in coroutines. Let's go back to our IntelliJ. So here I'll write another example to demonstrate the parent-child relationship between different coroutines. So I'll comment this previous call. I'll make one another function. I'll call it parent child example. Okay, I'll quickly create a method for this. So here inside this method I'll simply launch a coroutine. I'll call it outer. So this will denote a outer coroutine, and inside this coroutine I'll launch another coroutine. Okay, inside this what I'll do, I'll simply write our usual repeat method. I'll pass some number. I'll pass 20, and then inside this block I'll simply put a delay for maybe 200 milliseconds, and then I'll simply print some statement here. Okay, so in this println I'll print task number. Next I'll add a delay here. I'll pass 500 milliseconds, then I'll simply call join method on outer. Okay, and then here I'll simply print finished. So what are we doing in this method? We are launching a coroutine here, inside which we have launched another coroutine, and then inside which we will be printing this statement in the interval of 200 milliseconds. Okay, and then what we did, we put a delay here, and then we called join on outer. Okay, so let's run this example and see the output. So here if you see, we got this task 0, task 1, task 2 up to task 19. That means this block got completed and then it printed finished. So here we can say that the outer coroutine waits for the inner coroutine to get its execution completed. Now I'll change this example a bit. I'll put a global scope here. So I have simply changed the scope of this inner coroutine, and now let's run this example to observe the output. So now in the output we can see task 0 and task 1, and then it got finished. That means the outer coroutine now is not waiting for this inner coroutine to get completed, because now we have this inner coroutine launched in a global scope, and the outer coroutine does not care anything which is not in its scope, right? So how does it work? So the reason is that whenever you launch any coroutine which is inside another coroutine, it basically inherits the context of a parent coroutine. So that is the reason when we are calling outer.join, it basically waits for its all children to complete its execution, and then only the control goes to the last line. So let me rerun this example. So here in the output we can simply see that the inner coroutine completes its execution, and then only outer coroutine gets completed. So here we can say that a parent coroutine always waits for completion of all its children, and the parent coroutine does not need to explicitly track all of its children. So that's all about this video. I hope now you have a clear understanding about Kotlin coroutines and dispatchers. So thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and also share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel so that you never miss any updates on latest tech videos. Thank you for watching.